Hello people of the web and YouTube, it's here, and today I'm going to be talking about my Ender 3 3D printer. So okay guys, some things to note about this 3D printer. It's not the pro version of the Ender 3, and this is also a very budget printer. So it's not going to have all the features, all the bells and whistles and things, and if you don't know what you're getting into, you may run into issues using this printer, just a heads up. But overall, this printer was pretty straightforward and simple to use and set up. You do have to put it together, but it comes with all the tools, and as you guys can see on screen right now, I'm playing the video of me unboxing this thing, and overall it opens up really nicely. It was a little confusing on trying to figure it out, how to get it out of the box, so to say, but in the end I did get it out of the box. I did end up dropping some of the things doing so, but nothing got broke in the end. This thing is really durable, so I still recommend opening it up on the carpet or something, so if you do drop something it won't break. But overall, the unboxing procedure for getting this printer out was pretty smooth. Other than that, well, putting it together was another story. The instructions are pretty clear, however the extrusions or the frame itself of the printer goes on one way in a very specific way. So if you put these on, be sure you're putting them on the right way. I put them both on backwards, and when I went to put screws in them later, I realized the screws don't go through all the way because there's no indentation for the screw to sink in. So I did have to take those extrusion frames off and put them back on, but other than that, the frame assembly itself was super simple. Another thing that was super simple was hooking on the limit switch as well as the power supply. Now the limit switch is, you have to get it in the exact position, so if you're building this printer, be sure you know where you're going to put it as you put it on. It doesn't use screws, it uses some kind of locking nut system, so you just put it on next to the extrusion itself of the frame and tighten the screws and try to line it up to the picture in the instruction diagram. Other than that, those two things went on pretty good, and then my camera died. At this point, I began to install the Z-motor assembly, and I gotta say it went together pretty good. The one thing I had issue with was the belt, but it was just partially my own fault because I wasn't thinking straight. I thought the belt would easily slide underneath the wheels of the extruder itself, but it does not. You have to take the extruder off, put the belt under first, then put the extruder on. Trust me, that will make things a lot easier for you. I ended up just sliding them under the wheels. It didn't cause no damage, but that ain't the way you do it, so I just thought I'd point it out just so you guys don't make that mistake. Also, another mistake you might make when putting this thing together is when it says to put the extruder and the gantry onto the frame itself, it doesn't quite reach, and that's because they wrap the wires around the base of the unit itself, so be sure to untangle the wires from around the base of the unit first, pull them out from underneath the bed, then try to extend and hook on the gantry to the frame, and that should work. Other than that, at this point, I gave up on my camera entirely, turned it off, and my dad wanted to help me out, so me and him finished putting this thing together, and other than that, we didn't run into any other issues that I can think of or describe. It just went together good after I got those initial few things worked out and onto the frame itself. So it was pretty much just plug, play, and go. I put in some PLA, I leveled the bed out. I will explain how to do bed leveling and all these other things in a future video because I plan to upgrade the printer again in the future to either a better Bowden tube or a direct drive system. Because so far, when I was using this thing a lot over the week, the Bowden tube came out twice, which isn't good, especially when you're printing something large and for a long time. You don't want that tube to come out, or else your filament goes everywhere and nothing gets printed. But yeah, like I said, I'll make a video on how you would actually set the printer up and load filament, as well as the leveling and all that stuff. But for now, how did it turn out? It turned out pretty good. The first print I did worked. However, I skipped step 9 in the instructions. I don't know why I thought this didn't need to be done, but it did. For some of you guys that may have put this thing together before, it's fairly obvious what step 9 tells you to do. You gotta tighten some screws, which will then latch the gantry or the frame, or it's the gantry, I think, gantry to the Z-axis motor screw, and that will allow it to go up and down. When I first printed the spider, the wasn't going up in the Z directions, what I'm trying to say. It would go up a little bit then fall down. I didn't notice this till I went to go print a Yu-Gi-Oh card deck box, and it wasn't going up any farther than like the 10th or 15th layer before falling down. So yeah, step 9 is very important when you get this thing together, so be sure to tighten them screws. But yeah, after I did that, all my prints pretty much came out perfect. Every single one I loaded into Cura and threw onto the printer came out exactly as I intended them. I printed a few thumbsticks. Some of them the tolerances are a little off, so I have to tweak it, but overall it printed surprisingly well. Some other things that printed surprisingly well were this Facehugger Print. I'll have a video on screen for it, but it's a flexible print, well, jointed print, and I printed it at 65% scale. This was kind of a torture test, I think, for my ender, because I didn't think it would work, but in the end it did. However, I did end up printing that on tape. If you're going to be using the Ender's build plate, I do not recommend it. I recommend putting tape on that build plate the moment you get it, because if you mess up your leveling or the leveling comes undone over time, it will scuff up your build plate and you will get prints to it stuck way too well. I have some print on there from an old spider print that I can't get off, so I really do recommend using some painter's tape or masking tape and using a bit of hot glue stick or some spray-on glue or hairspray. For me, I used just some spray-on adhesive glue. I really don't recommend using this stuff on your 3D printer bed, except if you have it taped, of course. But overall, it works pretty good, and I got several successful prints using this method. The biggest print I think I've done so far would be this spider tank. I could be wrong, but this spider tank, I printed it out on the masking tape with the glue method, like I said, with the bed heated up. It came out butter smooth. I didn't even need no brim on it, but I gave it a brim just in case. But yeah, my overall experiences with this printer are really positive. It did need some setup. There are some things I plan to upgrade, but overall, if you want to get a budget printer, this is a good one to go with, especially if you already kinda know what you're doing. However, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. There won't be much more with this 3D printer in terms of videos. I won't be doing time lapses probably, but maybe in the future I will. However, I will make a video on Cura as well as how to install a direct drive setup or how to install a new Bowden tube. But for now, this is it. This is the video, and my overall impressions on this printer, I gotta say, are really good. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna leave this video off here now. I hope I was able to help some of you out with your decision on getting this 3D printer. But for now, I got to go. DTPK signing off. Peace. So I'm just gonna hit OK, and from here we can just hit run. Once we got everything else set up, it's as simple as hitting. But as you can see, our other avatar, the Avastar model, is gone, which lets us have free reign